You set your alarm for 6 a.m. with ambitious plans. By noon, you're still scrolling your phone in bed, watching other people achieve their dreams while yours collect dust. Sound familiar? You're not broken and you're not hopeless. What you're experiencing has a name, and more importantly, it has a solution. Today, I'm going to show you the 7 specific strategies that transformed me from someone who couldn't get out of bed before 11 a.m. to someone who built a 6-figure business. These aren't feel-good platitudes. They're neurologically backed techniques that rewire your brain's reward system. Here's what nobody tells you about laziness. It's not a character defect. Your brain is doing exactly what evolution programmed it to do. For hundreds of thousands of years, conserving energy meant survival. The human who burned calories unnecessarily died during the next famine. Your ancestors who felt motivated to hunt only when absolutely necessary lived to pass on their genes. That same energy conservation system runs your brain today, except now it's working against you. In a world that rewards consistent action over strategic rest, your neural pathways default to the most energy-efficient option available. When you're deciding between working on your business plan or watching Netflix, your brain calculates the energy cost of each activity. The business plan requires focused attention, decision-making, and emotional regulation. Netflix requires virtually no cognitive resources. Your brain chooses Netflix not because you're weak, but because it's following millions of years of programming designed to keep you alive. Traditional productivity advice makes this worse by adding more cognitive load to your already overwhelmed system. When you create elaborate morning routines, detailed schedules, and complex goal tracking systems, you're asking your brain to manage additional decisions on top of everything else. Each decision depletes your mental resources through a process called decision fatigue. By noon, your brain has made hundreds of micro decisions and defaults to autopilot mode, which means reverting to the easiest available behaviors. Your smartphone amplifies this problem by hijacking your dopamine pathways. Every notification triggers the same neurochemical reward that your ancestors received from finding food or shelter. Your brain can't distinguish between a text message and a life-saving discovery. The constant micro hits of dopamine from social media, games, and instant messaging create tolerance, requiring bigger and bigger stimuli to feel satisfied. Meanwhile, long-term goals like building a business or getting in shape provide delayed and uncertain rewards that can't compete with the immediate gratification available in your pocket. Decision fatigue. Research reveals why you start each day with good intentions but end up scrolling by evening. Your prefrontal cortex, responsible for self-control and planning, operates like a muscle that gets tired with use. Studies show that people make increasingly poor choices throughout the day as their mental resources deplete. This explains why you can resist the snooze button at 6 a.m. but can't resist checking Instagram at 10 p.m. Your brain isn't broken. It's exhausted from fighting its own programming all day. The most overlooked factor is identity homeostasis, your brain's resistance to change that threatens your current self-concept. If you see yourself as someone who struggles with motivation, your subconscious mind will sabotage efforts to become highly productive because productivity doesn't match your identity. Your brain interprets consistent action as a threat to who you are, triggering anxiety and resistance that feel like laziness. Your brain also uses pattern recognition to predict future behavior based on past experiences. Every time you've started a project and quit, planned to wake up early and hit snooze, or promised to focus and ended up distracted, you've reinforced neural pathways that expect failure. These pathways become superhighways in your brain, making procrastination feel automatic, while productive behaviors feel forced and unnatural. The more you fight against these patterns without understanding them, the stronger they become. Understanding these mechanisms changes everything because awareness interrupts the automatic cycle. When you recognize that your urge to procrastinate is your ancient survival system responding to modern challenges, you stop personalizing the experience. Research indicates that simply naming these patterns reduces their emotional impact by approximately 40%, creating space for rational decision-making instead of reactive behavior. The real breakthrough comes when you realize you don't need to fight your brain's programming. Instead, you can redirect it. Your dopamine system, decision-making processes, and identity homeostasis mechanisms can work for you rather than against you. The next three strategies I'm about to share exploit these exact same neurological systems to create forward momentum that feels natural rather than forced. Instead of fighting millions of years of evolution, you're about to learn how to make evolution work in your favor. Now I'm going to show you the four-stage system that turns your brain's resistance mechanisms into momentum builders within the next 72 hours. This isn't about forcing yourself to change through willpower. Real momentum happens when you strategically engineer micro wins that compound exponentially, creating forward motion that feeds on itself rather than depleting your mental resources. Everything you've been taught about starting big is backwards. When you announce that you're going to wake up at 5 a.m., exercise for an hour, and work on your business for 3 hours daily, your brain immediately recognizes this as a threat to your current identity. Your nervous system activates the same stress response it would use to fight off a physical attack. The bigger the change you attempt, the stronger your brain's resistance becomes. This explains why January gym memberships fail and why ambitious Monday plans collapse by Wednesday afternoon. Stage one operates through what I call the 2-minute rule hack, but not the version you've heard before. You start with actions so microscopically small that your brain can't justify resistance. Instead of, I'm going to write a book, you commit to opening a document for 2 minutes. Instead of, I'm going to get organized, you organize one drawer. These actions seem insignificant, but they create the beginning threads of new neural pathways without triggering your brain's threat detection systems. The key is treating these 2-minute sessions as complete victories, not stepping stones to bigger actions. This trains your brain to associate productivity with success rather than struggle. Stage two implements the identity bridge technique through specific language patterns that gradually shift your self-perception. Instead of saying, I'm trying to be more productive, you say, I'm someone who takes action, and today I'm having an off day. The difference seems subtle, but your subconscious mind processes these statements completely differently. The first reinforces an identity of struggle and effort. The second assumes productivity as your natural state while normalizing temporary setbacks. You literally reprogram your identity homeostasis by changing how you describe your behavior to yourself. Over time, your brain begins defending this new identity instead of the old one. Stage three hijacks your dopamine system through the dopamine stacking method. You strategically pair tasks that require mental effort with activities that naturally release dopamine. This doesn't mean rewarding yourself after completing work. Instead, you find ways to make the work itself more rewarding. You might listen to your favorite playlist while organizing files, work in a coffee shop you enjoy, or use a special pen that feels good to write with. Your brain starts associating the challenging task with the dopamine hit from the paired activity, making the work feel naturally motivating rather than forced. The most powerful element is timing these dopamine pairings with your natural energy rhythms. Most people experience peak focus between 10 a.m. and noon, regardless of whether they're morning people or night owls. During this window, your brain produces optimal levels of cortisol and adrenaline for sustained attention. When you stack challenging tasks with dopamine triggers during this period, you create momentum that carries through the rest of your day. Stage four scales these micro wins through the momentum multiplication protocol. After 7 days of consistent 2-minute sessions, you increase to 5 minutes. Not because you have to, but because maintaining momentum for only 2 minutes starts to feel incomplete. Your brain, now accustomed to daily action, begins craving more stimulation from productive activities. This is the opposite of willpower. You're following your brain's natural desire for increased engagement rather than fighting against it. The multiplication happens when you add a second micro habit before the first one reaches 15 minutes daily. Now you have two momentum streams reinforcing each other. Your brain recognizes this pattern as evidence that you're becoming someone who takes consistent action. The identity shift accelerates because you have multiple data points supporting your new self-concept, rather than relying on a single behavior change. This four-stage system creates the neurological foundation necessary for advanced momentum strategies. Your brain has learned that change feels safe, action produces rewards, and your identity includes consistent productivity. These neural pathways become the infrastructure that supports bigger transformations without triggering resistance mechanisms. The final strategy I'm about to share works specifically because this foundation makes your brain receptive to productivity as its new default mode, rather than an effortful deviation from normal behavior. Here's the truth that changes everything. You don't need to become a different person to beat laziness permanently. Your natural drive already exists beneath the barriers your brain created for protection. Every strategy I've shared removes these barriers rather than forcing change through willpower. Your dopamine system, decision-making processes, and identity mechanisms can work for you instead of against you. Take action on the 2-minute rule within the next 24 hours. Choose one small task and complete it in 2 minutes or less. Notice how different this feels from your previous attempts at massive change. Every moment you've spent procrastinating has been training for this transformation. Your brain now recognizes what doesn't work, making your success inevitable.